Sir, can you step away from the vehicle, please? Just stay calm.
Rain hammered the cracked asphalt as Colonel Marcus Hayes eased his truck to a stop outside a convenience store in suburban Virginia. He had just returned from his third deployment, the flag still folded neatly on the dashboard, a habit of reverence he couldn't shake. The night was quiet, except for the radio murmuring low, "Home of the brave." Then came the blinding flash of red and blue. "Driver." "Hands where I can see them." The voice sliced through the storm, sharp, panicked, young. Marcus blinked against the light. "Officer, out of the vehicle, now!" He stepped out slowly, boots sinking into puddles. His military ID slipped from his pocket as he raised his hands. One officer flinched. Another shouted something Marcus couldn't make out over the thunder. Then, a gunshot. The sound tore through the air, echoing off brick walls. Marcus dropped, pain searing through his shoulder, the world spinning red and white. He could taste metal rain and disbelief. "Jesus, he's down," someone yelled. Marcus tried to speak, to say he wasn't a threat, that he'd served this country longer than these kids had been alive. But his voice was lost in the downpour. A beam of light swept across the wet ground, landing on the fallen ID card. The camera on the officer's vest caught the words clearly: "COL Marcus Hayes, U.S. Army." And for one breathless moment, no one moved. Then, a single horrified whisper cut through the radio static. "Dear God, what have we done?" Fade to black. The airplane wheels screeched against the runway, and the sudden jolt shook Colonel Marcus Hayes from uneasy sleep. Outside the oval window, the Virginia dawn broke pale and cold, a thin wash of light over rows of suburban rooftops. He rubbed his temples. 3 tours in the desert, 12 medals, and yet the hardest part was always the return. At the baggage carousel, no one looked twice. Without the uniform, he was just another tired black man with a duffel bag. A child waved a miniature flag at a nearby reunion, and Marcus smiled, a flicker of pride laced with weariness. His phone buzzed. "Maya." "Dad." "You home yet?" "Just landed, baby girl." His voice softened. "You ready for that steak dinner you promised to cook?" She laughed. "You mean the one you're paying for?" "Yeah. 7 o'clock, don't be late." He chuckled, pocketing the phone. Her voice had always been his compass, clear, confident, alive. Outside, drizzle thickened into rain. Marcus drove his old Ford pickup through winding streets, noticing how the town had changed. New houses, same wary glances. A police cruiser idled at a corner. The officer inside glanced his way, eyes lingering. Marcus nodded politely. No response. He swallowed hard. "It's fine. Don't read into it." The radio crackled with a veterans news segment. "Support our heroes," a voice declared. Marcus snorted quietly. Support ends at the uniform, he thought. At a red light, he stared at his reflection in the rearview mirror. Close-cropped hair, deep lines under steady eyes. He had survived ambushes, explosions, and deployments. But here, back home, something deeper pressed against him. An invisible tension. An unspoken test. By the time he reached his small suburban house, the rain had turned relentless. He paused in the driveway, watching water slide down the windshield like tears. Inside, the living room smelled of dust and unopened boxes. Photos lined the wall. Maya's graduation, his late wife in uniform beside him, both smiling under a bright sky. He sat on the couch, rubbing the edge of his dog tags between his fingers. They were cold, heavy. The clock ticked. He exhaled slowly. "Home," he murmured. "Feels like another battlefield." A knock startled him. The mailman holding a small package. "Colonel Hayes?" Marcus nodded, signing. "Welcome home, sir," the man said with a smile. "You did us proud." Marcus's lips twitched upward. "Thank you." The moment felt warm, fleeting. Hours later, hunger pushed him to step out before dinner. "Just grabbing a few things," he texted Maya. Rain poured as he pulled into the gas station store. He grabbed milk, bread, a candy bar, routine, ordinary. But as he stepped back into the downpour, headlights flared behind him. Too bright, too close. A siren wailed. Marcus froze, heart thudding. No sudden moves. The rain seemed to stop midair as he raised his hands, slow and deliberate. He had been home less than 12 hours. Rain blurred the world into streaks of silver and red. Marcus stood motionless beside his truck, hands raised, the siren's wail cutting the silence like a blade. "Driver, step away from the vehicle," a voice barked through the megaphone. Marcus squinted through the glare. "Officer, Now. Step back." 2 patrol cars had boxed him in, lights flashing in the wet dark. Their beams carved him into silhouette, a tall, dark shape against a sheen of water and concrete. He lowered his tone. "All right. I'm cooperating." Boots splashed closer. 3 officers, maybe 4. Young faces behind plastic shields. The lead, pale, wiry, adrenaline in his movements, kept his gun raised. "What's the issue, officers?" Marcus asked calmly. His voice trembled just enough to betray that this wasn't combat. This was worse. "Suspect matches the description," the young one said. Marcus frowned. "Description?" Black male, mid-40s, dark jacket, seen leaving a break-in 2 blocks east. Marcus blinked rain from his eyes. "You think I—" He exhaled. "Sir, I just came from the base. My ID's in my wallet, back pocket. I'll show you. Don't move." He froze mid-motion. Hands still in the air, fingers wide. His pulse thundered in his ears. Another officer muttered, "Nolan, calm down, he's complying." "I said don't move." Nolan shouted again, louder this time. Marcus took a slow breath. "Listen to me. I'm Colonel Marcus Hayes, United States Army. I'm unarmed. Don't you play games with me." Nolan's voice cracked. "Hands on your head." Marcus obeyed. The rain ran down his temple, trickling into his collar. His knees ached. The second officer stepped forward, an older man with weary eyes. "Let's just check his ID," he said quietly. But Nolan snapped, "We'll do this by the book." His hands trembled on the gun. "Backup's en route." Lightning split the sky, followed by a sharp rolling thunder. Marcus swallowed. "This isn't fear. This is survival, officer," he said softly. "You're making a mistake." "Quiet." A third officer shouted from behind. "Nolan, what's he got in his hand?" Marcus instinctively turned his head. Just a glance, confusion flickering. The movement was small, but it was all it took. "Gun. He's reaching—" The shot exploded before the word ended. Marcus's body jerked backward, the impact slamming through his shoulder. The pain was instant, bright, and merciless. He hit the wet pavement hard, air punching from his lungs. The world shrank to sound. Rain, shouts, boots, radio static. Oh God, he's hit. "Call EMS." "Get the cuffs." Marcus tried to lift his head. The asphalt pressed cold against his cheek. His vision blurred. The red light smeared into ribbons. He coughed. "Blood, rain, breath. You shot me."
"Stay down."
Nolan's voice wavered. "You moved." The older officer knelt beside him, eyes wide. "He didn't have a weapon, Nolan. Jesus Christ. I saw he reached for his ID." The words hung in the storm. Marcus's wallet lay inches away, a thin black rectangle soaking in a puddle. The edge of his military ID poked out, faint letters visible under the water. U.S. Army, Colonel Marcus Hayes, get the ambulance. The older officer barked, ripping open his radio. "Officer involved shooting, Route 16 convenience store, subject down, critical." Marcus groaned. "I'm not a suspect." "We'll get you help," the officer said, pressing gauze against the wound. "Stay with me." Nolan paced in circles, eyes darting, muttering. He moved. I told him not to. He moved. "Put the gun down," someone ordered quietly. Nolan's jaw trembled. "I didn't mean to." Headlights approached, another cruiser, then another. Sirens layered on top of each other, shrill and dissonant. The parking lot became a swarm of uniforms. Cameras clicked. Radios buzzed. Someone set up yellow tape. A paramedic crouched beside Marcus. "Sir, can you hear me?" He nodded weakly, lips pale. "I served my country." The paramedic's eyes flicked to the ID. He froze, recognition dawning. "Colonel Hayes?" The older officer closed his eyes. "Oh, hell. What did you say?" Another cop asked. The medic lifted the ID. "He's military, high-ranking." A hush rippled through the group. Nolan stopped pacing, face draining of color. "Wait, Colonel?" he whispered. "You're saying—" Marcus's voice rasped through the rain. "Yes, United States Army." "Colonel." Nolan stumbled backward. No. The older officer glared. "You just shot a decorated veteran, Nolan." "I didn't know." Nolan's voice broke. He matched the description. Dispatch said armed suspect. Dispatch didn't say shoot first. The argument blurred into static as Marcus's vision dimmed. The pain roared and faded all at once, replaced by a ringing silence. He could hear Maya's laughter in his mind. The phone call earlier, her teasing voice. "Don't be late, Dad." His chest tightened. He reached toward the memory toward her, but his hand wouldn't lift. "Stay with us," the medic yelled. "BP dropping." In the corner, a young officer vomited into the gutter. Another tried to block the growing crowd of onlookers with cell phones raised. "Turn those off," someone shouted. "Scenes contained." But the flashing lights illuminated everything. The soaked asphalt, the blood mingling with rain, the uniformed men frozen in disbelief. Marcus's eyes fluttered open again. "Tell him my daughter." The medic leaned closer. "Tell her what, sir?" He smiled faintly, the effort trembling through his lips. "That I made it home." Then his head rolled to the side, the words hanging fragile in the storm. Across town in her small apartment, Maya Hayes stirred her coffee, half watching the evening news. The headline scrolled across the bottom of the screen. Breaking. Police shoot armed robbery suspect outside local store. A grainy photo appeared. Rain, flashing lights, a figure on the ground. She froze. The outline of the truck looked familiar. The jacket, the boots. Her mug slipped from her hands, shattering on the floor. "Dad," she whispered. Her phone rang. An unknown number. She answered with shaking hands. "Ms. Hayes?" a voice said. "This is County General. Your father's been involved in an incident. We need you to come immediately." Maya's heart cracked open. Is he alive?" A pause. "Too long. He's stable for now, ma'am." She grabbed her coat, keys rattling, vision swimming. "What happened?" "I'm sorry, ma'am," they said. Police thought he was someone else. Her knees nearly buckled. "Someone else?" "Yes, ma'am." There was confusion at the scene. Confusion. The word echoed in her head like a curse. By the time she reached the hospital, the hallways buzzed with whispers. Cameras already lined the entrance. Reporters swarmed, shouting questions she couldn't answer. "Ma'am, is it true your father's a veteran? Was he armed? Did police act in self-defense?" She pushed through, trembling. Inside, a doctor met her with grave eyes. "He's in surgery," he said. "We're doing everything we can. Can I see him?" "Not yet." Maya pressed her palm against the cold wall, breathing hard. "He didn't do anything wrong," she said softly. "He just came home." The doctor didn't answer. In the corner of the ER waiting room, an officer stood watch. Nolan. Pale, soaked, hands shaking. He looked up as she entered, recognition flickering, their eyes met. "You," she said. Her voice was low, dangerous. "You shot my father." Nolan's throat tightened. I didn't know. You didn't care," she hissed. "You saw his skin, not his service." He flinched. "It was dark." Dispatch said armed suspect. Maya stepped closer, tears cutting lines down her cheeks. "And that's all it takes, isn't it? A voice in your ear and a face you don't understand." He opened his mouth, then shut it again. The silence was heavier than his guilt. "Leave," she said quietly. "Before I forget he's still breathing." Nolan hesitated, then turned away, his badge glinting under fluorescent light. Outside, reporters shouted into microphones. Sources confirmed the suspect shot by police tonight is, in fact, a decorated U.S. Army colonel. The words struck like thunder through the night. Inside the operating room, Marcus's heart monitor beeped unsteadily. Outside, the city held its breath, and for the first time, the blue lights didn't look like safety. They looked like warning flares and burning through the rain. The hospital room hummed with the sterile rhythm of machines. The scent of antiseptic clung to the air like invisible smoke. Marcus lay motionless, his right shoulder bound in heavy gauze, his chest rising unevenly beneath a thin sheet. Outside the glass window, 2 uniformed officers stood watch, not to protect him, but to contain him. Maya sat by his bed, her hand wrapped around his. His skin was cold, pale against hers. "You don't have to stay all night," a nurse murmured, gently adjusting the IV line. "I'm not leaving him," Maya said. The nurse nodded, hesitant. "They're saying it was a misunderstanding." Maya's eyes flicked up sharply. "A misunderstanding doesn't leave bullet holes." The nurse swallowed and looked away. "You're right, honey. You're right." Down the hall, Sergeant Nolan sat outside the hospital administrator's office, uniform damp from the night before, his eyes hollow. His superior, Captain Reeves, loomed nearby, crisp, unreadable, the kind of man who spoke like every sentence was already approved by a lawyer. Reeves adjusted his tie. "You don't say a word to the press. Not one, understand?" Nolan stared at the floor. "Sir, the man's a colonel, a veteran. Doesn't matter what you didn't mean. What matters is what's recorded. And as far as the official report goes, he resisted arrest. You perceived a threat. You acted accordingly. End of story." Nolan's jaw tightened. "That's not what happened." Reeves leaned closer, voice low. "You want to keep your badge? Then it is what happened." Nolan looked up, eyes bloodshot. "Sir, the body cam is being reviewed," Reeves interrupted. "Internal Affairs will decide what gets released. Don't worry about the footage. I heard the medic saw his ID." Reeves's gaze turned sharp. "And you'll forget that. The narrative is simple. Mistaken identity, uncooperative suspect, non-lethal intent. The department's handling it." Nolan shook his head.
"Sir, I shot an unarmed man."
"That footage, listen carefully, Sergeant." Reeves's tone hardened. "You're young. You've got a family, a pension, a future. Don't throw it away trying to be a hero." Nolan's hands clenched. "I thought that's what the badge meant." Reeves smiled, cold, rehearsed. "The badge means survival. For us." He straightened, smoothed his sleeves, and walked into the administrator's office. Nolan stared after him, the rain still echoing in his head. At the same time, across the city, the news cycle spun like a machine. Breaking tonight. Police officers in Fairfax County respond to a violent burglary. A suspect is shot after resisting arrest. The suspect, identified as Marcus Hayes, remains in critical condition. Authorities say the man refused commands. The words played on every television in the hospital lobby. Maya stood watching, her face reflected faintly on the glass. "Suspect," she whispered. "They still call him a suspect." A passing officer muttered, "It's protocol." Maya turned, eyes sharp. "Protocol is what nearly killed him." The officer shifted uncomfortably and walked off. She pulled out her phone and hit record. "My father is Colonel Marcus Hayes, a decorated veteran. He served this country for over 20 years. And last night, the people sworn to protect him nearly took his life. Because of what they saw, not who he is." She uploaded it before she could second guess. Within minutes, her notification bar exploded. Comments poured in. "If this is true, this is outrageous. Police don't just shoot for no reason." Another one? When will this stop? By nightfall, wider justice for Colonel Hayes trended across social media. At the precinct, Captain Reeves stood before a wall of screens, watching the news feeds with a clenched jaw. "This is getting out of hand," he muttered. A public affairs officer said, "The footage is being processed. We can edit the release, trim the beginning, blur the ID." Reeves nodded slowly. "Do it. Make it look like he was reaching for something." The officer hesitated. "Sir, that's manipulation." Reeves turned his icy stare on him. "That's control. We protect our own." He paced to the window, the night sky reflecting off the glass. By the time the truth comes out, the storm will have passed. Meanwhile, Nolan sat alone in the locker room, the hum of fluorescent lights drilling into his skull. He replayed the moment over and over, the flash, the shout, the impossible realization. He'd gone to the captain's office to confess, but every word had been drowned in policy and fear. He pulled out his phone, hesitating. The footage still lingered in the body cam cloud archive, accessible only through an internal login. But he knew how to find it. A voice startled him. "You're not thinking of doing something stupid, are you?" It was Officer Daniels, his partner. Nolan pocketed the phone. "You think this was right?" Daniels sighed. "Right doesn't matter. The system decides that for us." Nolan stared at him. "Then what's left of us?" Daniels looked away. "Survival, man. Just survival." Back at the hospital, Maya confronted the department's spokesperson, Lieutenant Carol Pierce, in the hallway. Cameras followed at a distance. "Lieutenant Pierce, the media says my father resisted arrest. Do you have evidence?" Pierce offered the same tight smile she'd rehearsed. "The investigation is ongoing. We're committed to transparency. Then release the footage." Pierce hesitated. "Body cam footage must go through internal review before, so you can edit out the truth?" Maya's voice cracked with anger. My father taught soldiers about honor and integrity. Can your department say the same? Pierce's eyes flicked to the cameras. Ms. Hayes, I understand your emotions. You don't understand anything. Maya stepped closer. He's not a headline. He's a man, a veteran, a father. You owe him more than excuses. The cameras captured every second. Within hours, the clip hit the internet. Millions watched as Maya's fury burned through bureaucratic polish. That night, Captain Reeves called an emergency meeting. His tone was clipped, his patience gone. This is turning into a PR nightmare, he said. If that footage leaks before we frame it properly, the department's finished. A senior official spoke up. Maybe we release a partial clip, show him moving toward his pocket. Reeves cut him off. We'll handle it in-house. I'll speak to internal affairs personally, someone asked quietly. And the sergeant? Reeves hesitated. He's rattled, but he'll fall in line. In Marcus's hospital room, the machines beeped steadily. Maya sat beside him, scrolling through news updates. Dad, she whispered, they're trying to erase you. Marcus stirred faintly, his eyelids fluttering. Maya, his voice was fragile, raw. They shot me. Tears welled in her eyes. I know, but I'm going to make them pay for it. He blinked slowly. Don't let them turn you bitter. She squeezed his hand. I won't, I'll turn it into truth. He smiled weakly. That's my girl. The heart monitor beeped louder, steadying again. She leaned closer. Rest, okay? I've got this. Marcus drifted back into uneasy sleep. In another part of the hospital, Nolan sat in his car, drenched in guilt. The radio replayed the latest update. The police department has confirmed that the suspect shot last night was a decorated Army colonel. Officials say the shooting remains under investigation. Nolan slammed the radio off. He stared through the windshield, breathing hard. His hands trembled on the steering wheel. He opened his phone. The login screen for the body cam archive glowed faintly. He hesitated, then typed his credentials. A spinning circle appeared. Access granted. He clicked the video. Rain, sirens, voices. And then the sound he couldn't forget. His voice shouting, "Gun!" He's reaching, followed by the shot. He watched the frame where Marcus's wallet fell to the ground, where the ID shone under the streetlight. No weapon. No threat, just fear. And a decision that could never be undone. He closed the laptop and whispered, God help me. Outside, lightning flashed again, the same storm, still hanging over the city, refusing to pass. And in that brief light, Nolan knew the truth was coming, whether the department wanted it or not. A steady rhythm pulled him from the darkness. Beep, beep, beep. The sterile smell of disinfectant, a thin hum of machinery, something tight around his chest. Marcus Hayes opened his eyes to the ceiling. White square tiles arranged like a map of nowhere. For a moment, he didn't know what day it was, or which war this was. Then the pain arrived, sharp, deep, alive. His shoulder burned under layers of bandages. He turned his head slightly. Tubes, machines. The faint sound of voices beyond the curtain. Vitals stable. Possible discharge in a few days, someone murmured. Discharge, another voice scoffed. He's under investigation. The words sliced through the fog in his mind. Investigation. Marcus tried to move. His arms ached. His throat was dry as sand. Where am I? The curtain slid open. A nurse appeared, young, kind-eyed. You're at County General, sir. You've been unconscious for 2 days. He blinked. 2 days? She nodded. You were shot in the shoulder. You're lucky it didn't hit bone. He stared at her. Shot? By whom? Her expression faltered. By police officers, sir. They thought you were someone else. Marcus exhaled slowly, staring at the ceiling again. Someone else. He almost laughed. A bitter sound caught between disbelief and exhaustion. They always do. The nurse adjusted his IV drip. Your daughter's been here every day, Maya. He closed his eyes. She shouldn't have to see this. She's strong, the nurse said softly. Stronger than most. Later that afternoon, the door opened quietly. Dad? Her voice cracked just a little. Marcus turned his head. Maya stood in the doorway, dark circles under her eyes, clutching a folder full of papers and anger. She came to his bedside, brushing her fingers against his arm. You scared me, he smiled faintly. You look tired. Because you're stubborn, she said, half a laugh, half a sob. He reached for her hand. How bad? They're calling it a misunderstanding, she said bitterly. The department's spinning it like you resisted. Marcus's eyes darkened. Resisted? I was standing still. I know. She hesitated. They've got your body cam footage locked away. Internal Affairs says they're reviewing it. He knew what that meant. Editing, erasing, rewriting. What about the press? He asked. She sighed. Some believe us. Some don't. They say you should have complied faster, that you fit the description. He chuckled dryly. I fit a lot of descriptions, apparently. Maya's lip trembled. Dad? He looked away, voice steady but low. You don't have to fight this battle for me. Yes, I do. The silence between them filled with the steady beep of the monitor. Finally, he said, when I was overseas, we used to say the hardest part of war isn't the bullets. It's coming home and realizing the enemy looks like your neighbor. Maya swallowed hard. Then we make them see you. The real you. That evening, a quiet knock came at the door. Colonel Hayes? Marcus turned his head. A tall man in uniform entered. Silver hair, sharp jawline, eyes like cold iron. Colonel Whitaker, Marcus said, surprised. Didn't think the brass still remembered me. Whitaker gave a faint smile. They remember you plenty. Half the Pentagon's talking about this mess. Maya straightened. And what are they saying? Whitaker ignored her tone. They're furious. But they're cautious. They don't want to get political. Marcus arched a brow. A soldier shot in the street. What's political about that? Everything, Whitaker replied. Once race enters the room, no one wants to touch it. Maya crossed her arms. So they'll just let the department bury it? Whitaker met her gaze. Not if I can help it. He turned back to Marcus. You still have friends in D.C. Veterans Affairs, legal advisors, old commanders. If you're willing, we can push this story up the chain. Marcus hesitated. I didn't come home to start a war. Whitaker leaned forward. You didn't, but the war found you anyway. Silence. The steady heartbeat monitor was the only sound between them. Then Marcus nodded slowly. All right. I'll speak. But on my terms. Whitaker's lips twitched. Good. Because they're calling this a public relations disaster. I call it a reckoning. After Whitaker left, Maya sat by the window scrolling through her phone. People are rallying, she said. A justice for Colonel Hayes is trending worldwide. Veterans are speaking up, black, white, all of them. They're furious. Marcus stared at the rain on the window pane. Good men die for flags that don't protect them. Maybe now someone's finally looking. Maya turned toward him. We'll get justice, Dad, I swear it. He smiled gently. Justice isn't revenge, Maya. It's truth that can't be buried. She nodded. Then we dig it up. Hours later, the hallway outside filled with movement. 2 officers in plain clothes entered his room. Colonel Hayes, one said formally. We're with Internal Affairs. We need to ask you a few questions. Marcus eyed them warily. Am I under arrest? Of course not, the taller one said too quickly. Just standard procedure. We're conducting a review. Maya stepped between them. He's barely awake. You can't question him right now. The officer ignored her. Colonel, did you make any sudden movements during the altercation? Marcus blinked. I turned my head when one of them shouted, And would you say you appeared threatening in any way? Maya snapped, Are you serious? The shorter one raised a placating hand. We're just trying to establish facts. Marcus's tone hardened. Facts? I stood still. Hands visible. Identified myself. I did everything right. The officer scribbled something in his notebook. Thank you for your cooperation. When they left, Maya's fury broke through. They're not investigating. They're protecting themselves. I know, Marcus said quietly. They always start by writing your guilt for you. She clenched her fists. Then we'll rewrite it. He smiled faintly. That's my lawyer daughter talking. As night deepened, the hospital quieted. The beeping slowed. The rain softened outside. Marcus stared at the ceiling again, the pain in his shoulder pulsing like memory. He thought of the battlefield and of sandstorms. Gunfire, soldiers trusting him to bring them home, and now he couldn't even walk outside without a gun pointed at him. He whispered to the empty room. They saw a threat, not a man. In the hallway, Maya listened from the door. Tears slipped down her cheeks. She whispered back, barely audible. Then we'll make them see you as both. Outside, dawn began to break, pale light cutting through the rain-streaked window. For the first time in days, Marcus felt something close to clarity. He had survived war before. Now he'd survived this one too. The morning after Marcus Hayes spoke with Colonel Whitaker, the world changed. He woke to the buzz of his phone vibrating nonstop on the hospital nightstand. Maya was already there, eyes fixed on the screen. "Dad," she said, voice trembling with adrenaline, "you're everywhere." Marcus blinked. "Everywhere?" She turned the phone toward him. A news anchor's solemn face filled the screen. Breaking news. Retired U.S. Army Colonel Marcus Hayes, decorated combat veteran, was shot by police officers during what authorities claim was a case of mistaken identity. Then came the footage. Shaky, pixelated but unmistakable. Marcus standing beside his car, hands raised. A shout, a flash. He fell. The anchor's voice continued. Community outrage is spreading after confirmation of Hayes's military record and decades of service. Maya exhaled. Someone leaked the footage. Marcus's throat tightened. That's impossible, and the department locked it down. Someone inside must have disagreed with the cover-up. For a long moment, neither spoke. The sound of his own breathing filled the room, then faintly he said, "It's out now. No taking it back." By noon, the hospital was surrounded. Chanting rose from the street below. Hundreds, maybe thousands of voices blending into one furious wave. No justice, no peace. "Colonel Hayes deserved better," banners waved. Cameras rolled. Reporters crowded the entrance. From his window, Marcus could see the crowd. People of every race carrying flags, candles, posters with his face. Maya joined him at the window. "It's turning into something bigger than us." He shook his head slowly. It always was. Down below, a woman shouted into a megaphone, "He fought for this country, Maya, and this country shot him." Applause erupted. Marcus flinched. He wasn't used to applause for his pain. "I didn't want this," he said quietly. "I know," Maya replied, "but they did." Later that day, the hospital room turned into a war room. Colonel Whitaker arrived, followed by 2 journalists and a representative from the Veterans' Rights Coalition. The air was electric, phones ringing, voices overlapping, papers shuffled. Whitaker's tone was clipped. The footage went viral. 20 million views in 6 hours. The department's in crisis mode. Marcus exhaled. "They'll fight back." "They already are," said the journalist, a woman with tired eyes and a voice like steel. "Police PR says the video was selectively edited. They're releasing their own statement in an hour." Maya scowled. "They'll twist it. They'll try," Whitaker said. "But the public isn't buying it this time." The journalist leaned forward. "Colonel Hayes, people want to hear from you directly. A statement, an interview, something human. They need your voice," Marcus hesitated. "They'll dissect every word I say." "That's exactly why you need to say it," Maya urged. "Because silence looks like surrender." He stared at his bandaged shoulder. "I gave 30 years to a country that taught me to stand straight, speak little, and trust the chain of command. Now that chain's around my neck," Whitaker's jaw tightened. "Then break it." Marcus looked up slowly. "Turn on the camera." An hour later, the video went live. The frame showed Marcus Hayes sitting upright in his hospital bed, the faint hum of machines behind him. His voice was low, steady. "My name is Colonel Marcus Hayes. I served this nation for 30 years. I trained soldiers, led missions, buried friends. And 2 nights ago, I was shot by the people I swore to protect." He paused. The silence stretched, heavy and raw. "I did everything they tell us to do. I complied. I identified myself. I stood still. And still they fired." He looked directly into the camera. "I've been in real combat, but the fear I felt that night, the fear of dying on my own street, and was worse than any battlefield. Because there, at least, I knew who the enemy was." Maya's breath hitched as she filmed. Marcus continued softly, to those watching, "Don't turn this into politics. Turn it into change. For the next man, the next woman, the next black soldier who comes home and still has to prove they belong." He ended the video with a single line that hung in the air like thunder. "I didn't survive war to die misunderstood." Within hours, the video hit every platform. "Justice for Colonel Hayes. Stand for Marcus. He fought for us," celebrities tweeted. Veterans recorded their own messages. Talk shows debated it. And yet, as the movement grew, so did the backlash. "Police Lives Matter 2" signs appeared across town. Anonymous threats filled Maya's inbox. News pundits called him ungrateful and radical. By nightfall, the protests split, one side chanting for reform, the other defending the police. The air outside the hospital was thick with tension, sirens echoing in the distance. Inside, Maya scrolled through messages, her hands shaking. "They're twisting your words, Dad, calling you anti-American." Marcus sighed. "I expected that. Every truth starts as treason to someone." Whitaker paced by the door. The department just suspended the 2 officers involved. But they're not admitting fault. "Administrative leave," they said. Maya's eyes flashed. "Paid vacation." Marcus stared at his IV line, voice calm but heavy. "That's how the system protects itself. Quiet punishment, no accountability. Then we make noise," Maya said. "We don't stop." Whitaker looked out the window at the growing crowd. "Be careful. Anger without direction burns down everything, even justice." Marcus nodded slowly. "Then we guide it." That night, the hospital lights dimmed. The chanting outside turned into song, hundreds of voices humming "We Shall Overcome." Marcus sat in silence, listening. He felt something shift inside him. Not anger this time, but clarity. All his life he'd fought enemies he could see. But now the enemy was built into walls, uniforms, and policies. It couldn't be defeated with bullets. "Only truth," Maya whispered. "You started something, Dad." He looked at her, proud, weary, unbroken. "No," he said softly. "We started something." Across town in the police precinct's dim back office, Chief Rollins watched the news replay with clenched teeth. The leaked footage, the hospital video, the protests. His phone buzzed. A text from the mayor. "Contain this. Fast." Rollins rubbed his temples, muttering under his breath. He's not just a victim now. He's a symbol. The deputy beside him asked, "What do we do?" Rollins' eyes hardened. "We find out who leaked that video, and we make sure no more get out." The deputy hesitated. "Sir, what if more are already out?" Rollins looked at the screen. Marcus's face frozen mid-speech. Eyes steady, unafraid, he didn't answer. Outside, the crowd's chant grew louder, shaking the building's windows. No justice, no peace. The city was awake now. And nothing would ever be quiet again. The first headline hit at dawn. Colonel Hayes, hero or aggressor? Maya froze as the TV anchor's voice filled the hospital room. Sources within the department suggest Colonel Hayes may have reached toward his vehicle moments before officers opened fire. Marcus stared at the screen, disbelief hardening into fury. "Reached for I was holding my keys." "They edited it," Maya whispered. "They cropped the footage." "Classic move," Whitaker muttered from the corner. "Confuse the timeline, raise reasonable doubt. That's how they survive scandals." On another channel, a different face appeared and a former police spokesperson. "Look, it's tragic," the man said, but officers face split-second decisions. If Colonel Hayes made any motion, toward his waistband, they reacted as trained. Marcus's hand trembled against the bed rail. "They're rewriting it in real time." Whitaker nodded grimly. "They're building the myth before the truth cements." By midday, the smear was everywhere. Anonymous sources leaked false claims, prior altercations, disciplinary rumors from his service years, fabricated reports. Maya scrolled furiously through her phone. "They're saying you had PTSD, that you snapped." Marcus gave a hollow laugh. "PTSD, I counseled soldiers with it. Now they'll weaponize compassion to discredit me." Whitaker rubbed his temples. "It's a coordinated campaign. Police unions, talk radio, online trolls, they're flooding the narrative. Can we stop it?" Maya asked. "Not stop," he said. "Counter." Marcus leaned back, closing his eyes. "They're not after truth. They're after doubt. Doubt's what keeps power comfortable." Maya's voice cracked. "Then we burn their doubt down with proof." That afternoon, the first televised debate aired, 2 panels, one defending Marcus, one condemning him. The screen split between a civil rights attorney and a police advocate shouting over each other. He was compliant. He was moving toward his car. He was unarmed. The officers feared for their lives. Marcus watched silently. It felt like watching his life dissected under a microscope by strangers who'd never met him. Maya muttered, "They don't even say your name without alleged, like your existence is on trial." "Welcome to the new battlefield," Marcus said quietly. They shoot your body, then your reputation. Whitaker stood by the window, phone to his ear. We've got a lead, he said finally. An officer from the precinct, anonymous, wants to talk. Claims there's unedited footage. Marcus's eyes snapped open. Where? Downtown tonight. She'll only meet off record. Maya frowned. Sounds like a trap. Or our only chance, Marcus said. They met in a deserted parking garage after dark. Rain streaked the concrete, the smell of oil hanging thick. A young woman stepped out from the shadows. Late 20s, uniform under a hoodie. Eyes darting nervously. You're Hayes? She asked. Marcus nodded. And you're the one risking your badge to be here. She swallowed hard. You don't deserve what they're doing. I saw the raw footage. Maya stepped forward. Can we have it? The woman hesitated. It's on a secure drive. But if I'm caught, no names, Marcus said softly. Just the truth. She handed over a small USB. It shows everything. The pause before they fired, the hesitation, their faces after. They knew. Maya's eyes widened. You mean? They realized who you were after the shot, the woman said. One of them even said, oh God, it's the colonel. Marcus exhaled sharply, anger mixing with disbelief. And they still lied, she nodded. They were ordered to. By who? Whitaker asked. Chief Rollins. He said, quote, we control the narrative or we lose the city. Maya's jaw clenched. Then we'll control it for him. The woman's voice shook. Be careful. They're watching everything, your calls, your emails. They'll try to discredit you harder after this. Marcus met her gaze. You've done the right thing, officer. Whatever happens, history will remember that. She nodded once and disappeared back into the rain. Back at the hospital, Maya plugged in the drive. Unedited footage filled the laptop screen. Clear, raw, undeniable. The officers' voices crackled. He's not moving. Hands are up. Then what are we waiting? Bang silence, then panic. Oh no, that's Hayes. That's Colonel Hayes. Maya's hands shook. We have them. Whitaker exhaled slowly. If we leak this, it ends their careers and then maybe the department. Marcus stared at the frozen frame. His own body on the asphalt, lifeless and small. This isn't revenge, he said quietly. This is reclamation. The next morning, they released the full footage through a coalition of veteran networks and independent journalists, channels the department couldn't control. It hit the internet like a detonation. Within an hour, hashtags exploded again. They knew Colonel Truth. Unedited Justice News anchors reversed their tone. New evidence now confirms that Colonel Hayes posed no threat. The same pundits who'd condemned him yesterday now praised his dignified restraint. Maya watched the media swing with disgust. They turned tragedy into ratings. Marcus gave a sad smile. They're merchants of outrage. But at least the truth slipped through. Whitaker added, the mayor's office has ordered a full external investigation. Chief Rollins is under pressure. Marcus looked out the window. Protesters held candles now instead of signs. It's not over. They'll fight back again. They always do, Maya said. But this time we're ready. That evening, Chief Rollins appeared on live television, jaw stiff, eyes cold. We regret the unfortunate events involving Colonel Hayes, however. Recent leaks have compromised an ongoing investigation. Those responsible will be dealt with. Marcus turned off the TV mid-sentence. He still won't say sorry. No. Whitaker replied, but that's how men sound when their walls start cracking. Maya folded her arms. He's cornered. Marcus looked down at his healing shoulder. Cornered men are dangerous. They'll drag others down with them. A pause. Then he said, almost to himself, they fired one bullet at me that night, but every lie since has been another shot. Maya took his hand. Then we fire back with truth. Outside, thunder rolled again, echoing across the city. This war wasn't fought with guns anymore. It was fought with footage, words, and courage, and this time, Marcus Hayes refused to lose. The threats started as whispers, then turned into warnings. By the end of the week, Maya's phone was vibrating nonstop again. Unlisted numbers. Private messages. Anonymous emails. You should have stayed quiet. Your father's a disgrace. Accidents happen. She tried to hide them, but Marcus saw the tension behind her forced smiles. One night, while she dozed off in the chair beside his bed, he quietly picked up her phone. The messages glared back at him like open wounds. He stared at the screen for a long time, then whispered to himself, They're trying to break her. And that was when he knew. They couldn't win this fight from a hospital room. The next morning, he signed himself out. The nurse protested. "Colonel, your wound?" "I fought through worse," he said, buttoning his coat with slow, deliberate motion. "This time I'm not fighting alone." Whitaker met him in the lobby, expression grim. "You sure about this?" Marcus nodded. "They're attacking from the shadows. I need to stand in the light." As they stepped outside, the city greeted them like a storm. Reporters, cameras, chants. "Colonel Hayes." "Colonel Hayes, do you have a statement?" He paused briefly, scanning the sea of microphones. "I have one," he said. "Truth doesn't need editing." Then he walked past them, ignoring the shouted questions. Maya hurried beside him. "Where are we going?" "To face them," he replied. "To end this on my terms." The precinct loomed like a fortress, gray stone, mirrored windows, flags half raised in tension. Whitaker parked a block away. "You're walking into enemy territory." Marcus smiled faintly. "I've done that before." Inside, officers stared as he entered, some with guilt, others with thinly disguised contempt. Chief Rawlins emerged from his office, jaw tight. "Colonel Hayes, you should have scheduled an appointment." "I wasn't sure you'd take it," Marcus said evenly. Rawlins folded his arms. "You shouldn't be here. You're jeopardizing the investigation." "There's no investigation," Marcus said. "Just a cover-up with better lighting." The chief's eyes flickered. "Watch your tone." Marcus stepped closer. "You watched me bleed out on the street. I'll use whatever tone I damn well please." The room went silent. Officers paused mid-step, pretending not to listen. Rawlins's voice lowered. "You think this crusade helps you? It's making the city burn." "The city's burning because men like you keep striking matches," Marcus replied. "I didn't light this fire. I survived it," Rawlins sneered. "You're a soldier, not a saint. You of all people should understand collateral damage." Marcus's eyes darkened. "The difference is, in war we face our mistakes. You bury yours under press conferences." Whitaker stepped forward. "Chief, we have the unedited footage. It proves you ordered suppression." Rawlins froze for a moment, then smirked. "Leaked footage. Illegally obtained. You think the public will care once I release what we have on him?" Marcus frowned. "What do you have on me?" Rawlins' smirk widened. Enough to remind the world that even heroes have shadows. He turned to his desk and clicked a remote. A large screen flickered on, showing grainy footage of Marcus in a bar years ago, breaking up a fight between two drunk soldiers. Rawlins let it play. "Assault charges filed, later dismissed." But the headline will read, "Colonel Hayes has history of violence." People don't remember context. They remember words. Maya's voice shook. "You're disgusting." Rawlins shrugged. "I'm practical." Marcus stared at the screen, then looked Rawlins straight in the eye. "You've forgotten something." "Oh? I'm not the one hiding behind edited video anymore." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small flash drive. "You remember this?" "The one you didn't know existed." Rawlins's smile faltered. Marcus continued, voice calm but deadly. "It has your own words. The meeting where you ordered the footage buried. You said, 'We control the narrative or we lose the city.'" Whitaker smirked. "Guess what, Chief? You've already lost it." Rawlins's face drained of color. "You wouldn't dare—" "Oh, I already did," Marcus said. "It's uploading right now." Rawlins lunged forward, snatching at the flash drive. But Maya stepped between them. "Touch him," she hissed. "And the whole world will see this footage before you can blink." Rawlins froze. For the first time, fear replaced arrogance. By evening, the recording was everywhere. Chief Rawlins caught ordering suppression of evidence in Hayes' shooting case. Protesters flooded the streets again, louder, angrier, unstoppable. The mayor announced Rawlins' immediate suspension pending investigation. News anchors called it a turning point in the national debate. But for Marcus, the noise outside didn't feel like victory. It felt like exhaustion. He sat on his apartment balcony that night, arm in a sling, city lights flickering below. Maya joined him, setting down 2 mugs of tea. "He's finished, Dad. It's over." He shook his head slowly. "No, Rawlins is one man. The system that built him is still standing." She exhaled. "Then we keep going." He smiled faintly. "You sound like your mother." Maya laughed softly. "You always say that when you're proud." "I am." He looked out over the skyline. "But promise me something. Anything. Don't let them make you hate." She frowned. After what they did, hate corrodes the vessel it's carried in, he said quietly. You fight them with truth, not vengeance. She nodded slowly, tears glinting in her eyes. Then truth it is. Across town, Chief Rollins sat alone in his darkened office, watching the footage loop on his computer screen. His phone buzzed. The mayor again. Pack your things. He stared at the message, jaw tightening. Outside sirens wailed, and not for him, but for everything crumbling around him. He whispered to no one. I only did what they all do. But even he didn't believe it anymore. At dawn, Marcus stood by the window again, the first light spilling across his worn uniform jacket hanging on the chair. He ran his fingers across the faded metals. For every man who didn't come home, he murmured, and for those who did, only to find another battlefield waiting. He lifted the jacket slowly, steady despite the ache in his shoulder, and placed it neatly over his arm. Maya watched quietly. Where are you going? He smiled. Back to the people. There's work to do. The camera crews would call it a comeback. The networks would call it closure. But Marcus Hayes knew better. This wasn't closure. It was continuation. The system had cracked, not collapsed. And somewhere inside those cracks, sunlight was finally bleeding through. The city awoke to a new sound. Silence. No sirens. No chants, no gunfire. Just a heavy, uneasy quiet that followed nights of chaos and revelation. For the first time in months, the streets weren't burning. They were breathing. But beneath the calm, something was shifting, something permanent. Chief Rollins sat under the harsh lights of the interrogation room. The man who once controlled every headline now looked like a headline himself. Hollow-eyed, suit rumpled, hands trembling on the metal table. Across from him, Detective Whitaker laid out a folder. Evidence review. You're officially being charged with obstruction of justice, destruction of evidence, and conspiracy to suppress civil rights. Rollins didn't look up. You think this makes you a hero? Whitaker gave a humorless laugh. No, Chief, it just makes me clean. Rollins finally met his eyes. I built this department. You built a lie, Whitaker said softly. And you forgot that lies rot from the inside. Rollins's mouth twitched. You'll see, Detective. The system doesn't punish its architects. It replaces them. Whitaker leaned closer. Maybe, but for once the foundation's shaking. As Whitaker gathered his files, Rollins slumped back, staring at his reflection in the two-way glass. For the first time in his career, he didn't recognize the man looking back. Across town, Marcus stood in front of a packed press conference hall. Reporters filled every seat. Cameras clicked like gunfire. The air buzzed with anticipation. He adjusted the microphone, his arm still in a sling, the bruises fading but visible. Reminders carved in flesh. My name is Colonel Marcus Hayes, he began, voice steady. And I'm still standing, not because I'm unbreakable, but because truth doesn't die quietly. A murmur rippled through the room. He continued, I was shot because of my skin, lied about because of my silence, and targeted because I refused to stay invisible. But this story isn't about me. It's about the system that pretends to protect, while it punishes those who challenge it. He paused, looking directly into the cameras. For every name you forgot to say, for every body left on cold pavement, for every family told to move on, this is your reckoning too. Maya watched from the front row, tears in her eyes. She'd seen her father in battle, but never like this. Not armored, not shouting, just standing in truth. A reporter raised his hand. Colonel Hayes, what do you want now? Marcus smiled faintly. Justice that doesn't need a camera to exist. The room fell silent. Then slowly, applause began. Hesitant at first, then building, echoing, rising like a wave. Outside, a crowd had gathered. Not chanting. Not protesting. Just present old men in veterans' jackets. Young students with handmade signs. Mothers holding photos. When Marcus stepped outside, the crowd parted, then erupted, not in chaos, but in gratitude. Thank you, Colonel. Justice for all of us. You made them listen. He lifted a hand, not to wave, but to steady them. Don't thank me, he said into a nearby camera. Thank yourselves for finally being heard. That night, Maya uploaded a short video, clips of her father's press speech intercut with the unedited shooting footage, the protests. The moment Rollins was arrested, she titled it simply, The reckoning. Truth can't be buried. Within hours, it spread across every platform. Within days, it became a movement. Schools played it in classrooms. Veterans shared it on forums. Parents whispered, "That's the man who stood up." For the first time, people weren't arguing about if racism existed. They were asking how to dismantle it. Weeks later, Marcus stood at the memorial for victims of police violence. A new plaque had been added at the base, dedicated to those who refused silence. Maya joined him, placing a small flower beneath the engraving. "They invited you to speak again," she said softly. He smiled. "Sometimes silence says more." She looked at him. "You're really done fighting?" He shook his head. "No, I'm just changing battlefields." That evening, as the sun dipped low, Marcus returned to his porch, the same spot where it all began. The neighborhood kids were playing basketball in the street again. Their laughter echoed where sirens once wailed. He leaned against the railing, breathing in the cool air. Maya stepped beside him. "You ever think about leaving this city?" "Every day," he admitted. "But someone's got to stay and make sure it remembers what happened." She smiled. "Then I guess I'm staying too," he chuckled. "You sure? The world's big. So was your fight," she said. "And you didn't run." Marcus looked out at the horizon, gold bleeding into purple, the skyline glowing like a promise. "Then we stay," he said. "And we build something better." Months later, courtroom scene. Chief Rollins sat before the judge, expression emptied of pride. The charges were read aloud. Cameras flashed. When the verdict came, guilty on all counts, there was no applause, no cheers, just a quiet satisfaction that justice had, for once, chosen the right side. Outside, reporters shouted questions, but Marcus walked past them in silence. He wasn't there for headlines. He was there to watch accountability finally wear a uniform of its own. Later that night, Whitaker visited him. "You did it," he said, handing Marcus a folded newspaper. The headline read, "Colonel Hayes' stand sparks nationwide reform bill." Marcus smiled faintly. "We did it," Whitaker shrugged. "Feels strange, doesn't it?" "Winning." Marcus looked at the paper again. "This isn't winning. It's rebuilding. Winning comes when we don't have to prove our humanity anymore." Whitaker nodded slowly. "Then let's keep rebuilding." They shook hands. Two men who started on opposite sides of the line, now standing shoulder to shoulder on the right one. As dawn broke again, Marcus returned to his porch. This time he wasn't alone. The community had gathered, candles, flags, and a single framed photo. Marcus, in uniform, standing tall despite the wound. Someone began to sing softly, a hymn about light after darkness. Others joined in. Maya filmed quietly, capturing her father's profile as the sun rose behind him. He turned to her, smiled, and said, "You see that? That's what they couldn't kill." And in that moment, as the city glowed gold again, it felt like more than a reckoning. It felt like redemption.